But first, the coronavirus. All our thoughts go to Peter Dutton, Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson, and everyone and anyone else affected by the virus. In fact, many people watching Outsiders this morning already have the virus, but they just don't know it yet. That is the conclusion of Thomas Pueyo, writing one of the best and most comprehensively researched articles I've yet read on the virus. You can find it on medium.com or simply by Googling coronavirus, why you must act now. Pueyo traces the spread of the virus out of Wuhan and across the world and comes to some uncomfortable conclusions, namely, the coronavirus is coming to you. It's coming at an exponential speed, gradually and then suddenly. It's a matter of days, maybe a week or two. When it does, your healthcare system will be overwhelmed. And those are his less scary conclusions. I won't spoil your brekkie with the others. Now, here in Australia, we are blessed with a wonderful health system, and in theory, we should have nothing to seriously worry about. Or should we? Thomas Pueyo and his team have analysed the exponential rate of the spread of the virus and discovered that the reported number of cases is quite different to the true number of cases. They've also explored why, for instance, the virus is spreading like wildfire in Iran and Italy, Spain, we learn, but under control in Singapore and Taiwan and elsewhere. Pueyo admits his studies aren't perfect, but they all paint to the same message, he says, which is, we don't know the number of true cases, but it's much higher than the official one. For example, when Wuhan thought it had 444 cases, it had 27 times that number. If France thinks it has 1,400 cases, it might well have tens of thousands, he says. Just this morning, Spain has revealed the virus is out of control there. The goodish news is that some 80% of cases are mild, 13% severe, and around 5% critical. But Pueyo warns China's fatality rate looks like it converges towards approximately 4%. Now, we heard earlier disagreement with that from the States, that it was only 1%. But if it is 4% or 3.8%, this is double the current estimate and 30 times worse than the flu. So what should we do? And here's the clincher. He writes, countries that act fast reduce the number of deaths by a factor of 10. And that's just counting the fatality rate. Acting fast also drastically reduces the spread of the disease. He cites Singapore, Taiwan, and elsewhere. A surge in patients happens so quickly that it overwhelms even the best equipped hospitals, who simply will not have enough equipment, ventilators, and so on to treat everyone if there is a surge. And don't kid yourselves that our hospitals have abundant facilities. They do not. As Thomas Pueyo says, the more we postpone cases and push them into the future, the better our healthcare system can cope and the lower the mortality rate will be. The infections at the front, if you have a surge of them, that leads to deaths. You push that surge down, you spread it out, and you have a much better outcome, and the closer we are to having a vaccine. In my opinion, our governments and our medical authorities have been all over the place on the coronavirus. Groups like the AMA, who have been so quick to leap up and down about climate change and manas and Nauru and same-sex marriage, have been hopeless on corona. Faffing about, not really taking it seriously, keep calm and carry on, and all that twaddle. What garbage. Keep calm, sure, but carry on as usual, that's the worst thing we can do. We should have, course, have acted much quicker and much more resolutely weeks ago when some of us were sounding the alarm. We should have closed our borders, made people arriving here isolate for 2 weeks, as New Zealand has done just this morning, and encourage social distancing, that means not crowding together, and prohibiting crowds from gathering, as is happening throughout the world. Our hospitals and GPs do appear unprepared, even complacent. The health lines and websites have been dysfunctional. You've heard all those stories on Talkback Radio. And the government appears to be far more worried about the economic rather than the health ramifications. We don't need ridiculous Kevin Rudd-style stimulus packages that are as illogical as they are unaffordable. Why give people extra money to spend when all they will do is rush out to splurge it in the shopping malls and increase the risk of catching the virus, making the problem worse for everyone? Pueyo writes that there is one very simple thing that we can do and it works: social distancing, which means basically avoiding people. If people don't interact with each other, the virus cannot spread. If somebody coughs, you're safe. If you're 6 feet away, the droplets fall to the ground and don't infect you. Pueo continues. The worst infections after coughing come from touching surfaces. The virus survives for up to 9 days on surfaces such as metal, ceramics and plastics. That means touching things like doorknobs, tables or elevator buttons should be avoided, must be avoided. Coronavirus isn't some hoax. It isn't the Y2K bug. It isn't the GFC. This is a highly contagious and potentially deadly virus, particularly deadly for the elderly and particularly deadly when hospitals are overwhelmed. And we have to stop it spreading. This is a numbers and contact game, pure and simple. The only way to truly reduce the spread is to reduce the number of individuals each of us comes into contact with every day. Obviously, stay away from crowds, stay home as much as possible for as long as possible now. Every day that we kid ourselves that it's all just business as usual, that it's nothing to do with us, the virus spreads exponentially and the task to defeat it becomes that much greater. Stop shaking hands now. Stop mingling unnecessarily now. Wash your bloody hands 20 times a day if necessary. Get some hand wipes and wipe down the doorknobs, petrol pumps, shopping trolley handles and so on. Do it now. We Aussies have always been a sociable lot. Barbecues, the footy, picnics, the fireworks, vivid, and so on. But from today, for a few weeks, we've got to keep a safe distance from each other, see a lot less of each other, have a bit less fun. Not next week, now. Our parents' generation made plenty of much harder sacrifices for us. It's our turn to make some pretty small sacrifices for them. Full marks to Jacinda Ardern for closing New Zealand's borders, as we should have done weeks ago, and we should do today. This government has got to stop faffing around like nervous nellies and treating us like halfwits. We need to beat this bloody thing, not next week, not Monday, not this arvo. We've got to do it now.